There's kind of three ways to grow your business. Value propositions allows you to enhance all of those.
Hi, Steve. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
If our customers are wanting that, we currently aren't offering that. How could we do that, but do that with impact?
Joining me today is Steve Willicott, a man who quite literally wears many hats, as you're about to find out.
The logo, which you can see on my hat here, is a U and an M for Uncle Matt.
Steve is founder of Uncle Matt and a D2C business consultant who has spent the last 2 decades scaling e-commerce brands.
All our competitors are saying the same thing. It was all around product and service and price. What we did is we changed the hierarchy of all our advertising.
If you are landing on a website and you're taken straight away to a category of product, you're just trading on that product and it might be the same as someone else's.
In this episode, we're getting into one of the most misunderstood ideas in marketing.
Features and benefits for me tend to sit at the product level, whereas value proposition tends to sit at the brand level.
Value propositions. What they actually are, why most brands get them wrong, and how to build one that genuinely resonates with customers.
If you had 10 seconds to tell somebody about your brand and all your competitors traded on premium quality, then that's not the thing you would say first.
As the brand scales, do you work on your value prop and adjust it? Hello and welcome to another episode of Paid Forward. Hi Steve, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, really looking forward to having this conversation with you. I know we've been trying to get this date in, finally managing to get hold of you. You're a busy man and really appreciate your time. So yeah, welcome to the podcast. And yeah, we can run through some of the things I've got lined up for you. Before we jump into the questions, I want to sort of get into the meat of things. I guess let's find out a little bit more about you. So who's Steve? And obviously you've done a number of things. You've been working in the industry for 20 plus years, sort of helping e-com brands. But talk me through the story a little bit of what's made you who you are today.
I'll try and keep it short because 20 years is long. I guess the starting point was I was the CEO of a pure play e-commerce business, sports business. So we would sell rugby football gear online. I was the CEO there for 11 years, took the business from relatively small to a fairly decent size, launched a couple of own label brands during the time, launched a protein brand, did lots of different things, but all under the kind of the e-com, function. So we're all D2C, didn't have any bricks and mortar, so it was all online. Exited that business in 2016 and began advising other businesses. So worked with mainly private equity, VC-backed businesses. They tend to be brands that have a third-party retailer to some degree, whether that's wholesale, third-party retail, bricks and mortar, and then has an e-commerce function. So it tends to be helping people. It's kind of a strange one because I don't tend to have a clear sort of proposition on that, despite me always telling them to have a clear proposition. But because I was a CEO of an e-com business, everything falls on your desk. Tends to be nothing that you've not really seen before. And so normally I can help in kind of lots of different aspects. If I can't, I normally know somebody that can. So I then sort of introduce other businesses. I've worked doing that for the last 10 years. And then more recently launched our own product, which is on my head, which is a hat brand, which I'm sure we'll talk about later.
Absolutely. By the way, do you know any good paid media agencies?
And no, just struggle to find them. That's it. Load of rubbish everywhere.
I'll tell you about one later on.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for talking me through kind of the story to date. Since 2016, you've been managing e-com brands and growing them, and obviously in consultancy capacity as well. I think just sort of taking the listeners back to kind of an eye-opener moment for me was when you and I had a chat about value propositions, and you had this presentation that you talked me through about how to put together a very solid value proposition and how it's kind of often misunderstood. So I've got sort of questions lined up that particularly I want to get really deep into value propositions with you. Can we start with maybe just asking you a very obvious question? What is value proposition?
So the way I always try to explain it is if I am your perfect customer, so if I am your defined target customer that fits all the personas, all the bits of work you've done to say this is who we're targeting, if I am that perfect customer, why should I do what you want me to do versus going and doing something else? So why should I buy from you versus a competitor? What is the thing that will draw me to you versus a competitor? So if you take an agency as an example, what is the thing that is different about you that I should then go to you versus another agency? So I think it's that really defining the why a customer wants to be your customer.
Steve, is there any examples you can give me or any stories you can tell us about kind of where you worked with a brand and you had to perhaps look at a value prop, It could be that it was missing, or you had to enhance the value prop, just get more revenue out, more new customer acquisition, increase that, any of those things.
We were actually in this position at the business I was the CEO of for 11 years. So we were a online rugby and football retailer, but essentially we were the same as any other online rugby and football retailer. We had a really good range. Why wouldn't we have the best range? We had really good service levels. If you looked at us versus our competitors, we were pretty much exactly the same. What we did was we looked at what our competitors were doing. Back to that Venn diagram, we looked at what our competitors were doing. We looked at what our customers were buying. And one of the things we identified was that the competitor was offering personalized football boots. So you can have your name embroidered on the side or something. And so we took that and said, well, okay, if our customers are wanting that, we currently aren't offering that. How could we do that with impact? So our competitor was charging, I don't know, something like 20 quid, 25 quid to embroider the name or number on the side of your boots. And so we said, well, what if we were to do that? But what if we were to do that for free? What's the thing that's going to make me do what you want me to do versus something else? Well, if I want a pair of boots, they're the same price as the competitor. Fine. I want them to come fast. I want them to come undamaged and all those sorts of things. Fine. Same as a competitor. I want them to be personalized. Oh, okay. I can do that, but I can get it for 20 quid less there. And we did a whole piece of work around what it would cost per boot. And then we invested probably, I don't know, £200,000, something like that, into embroidery equipment, into dev, of taking what was put on the website. I want Steve on the side of my boots, then transfer that into the embroidery machines. Did a whole load of work to make it really, really slick. So we knew that it would probably have a high volume, and introduced that. And so when it came to the question, why should I buy from that business versus that business? Actually, it's very compelling. What we then did was we took, whereas all other retailers in that space would put print ads out, would put meta ads out saying, we've got the latest Ronaldo boot. Well, again, why wouldn't we? We're a football retailer. Why wouldn't we have the latest Ronaldo boot? And we would say, and it's 250 quid. Well, okay, that's the same as a competitor. So all our competitors, it's back to that kind of, we were talking about fueling each other's communications channels. All our competitors were saying the same thing. It was all around product and service and price. We also had the issue with Sports Direct on the high street, which were 30% off on pre-sale of the product, which is hard to compete with. And so what we did is we changed the hierarchy of all our advertising. So instead of saying we've got the latest Ronaldo boot, it's 250 quid. It's got these amazing features. It will make you a professional football player. Come and buy it from us. We said, personalize your boots for free. And then to demonstrate that service, say the Ronaldo boot, have Ronaldo on the side or your name or something like that on the side. So we would then use the latest Nike, Adidas, whatever boot to showcase our service of personalizing it for free. So again, back to hierarchies, instead of us going, this is the product that we're trying to sell you, this is the price, this is the features, come and buy, we'd say, personalize your boots for free. This is why you want to come and buy from us. By the way, we've got the latest Ronaldo boot. Why wouldn't we? We're a football retailer. And then you might service the other stuff. So the features, benefits, all the service levels, your pilot reviews, things like that. Crafting a differentiator based on what your competitor is already offering and you doing it better or different, and then showcasing that as your primary message. We doubled boot sales in 12 months just from introducing that. A lot of investment, a lot of hard work getting it there, but it was really impactful.
We talk about features and we talk about benefits and marketing lingo. How different is it to value proposition? Are features and benefits part of value proposition? Is it completely different? Yeah, how did the three kind of come together?
I think what you tend to find is features and benefits tend to form a value proposition if the value proposition isn't particularly strong. So if you have a product or brand that is very similar to other competitors, then you tend to have to trade on a couple of things. One is service, but again, all businesses should have good service. So is that a given? Is that something to trade on? They tend to trade on then price. And so then you tend to find everybody's undercutting each other. We can do this cheaper. We've got these promotions on, which again only has an ongoing detrimental effect to the perception of the brand. And then you have the features and benefits. So you would have this particular product, whatever it is, I don't know, let's say coffee. This coffee tastes better, it's fair trade, it's all those sorts of things, which isn't to say that that's not part of the value proposition. But if what you're talking about can be said by a competitor, then maybe that's not the thing that forms your value proposition. One of the examples you tend to see a lot, and I worked years ago with a brand that does baby changing bags, and they were real had a really strong value proposition and basically had these removable pods that you could remove, and it kept things separate. So you'd have your pod for your clean nappies and your creams and all stuff like that. And then you'd have in there a section for your dirty nappies if you can't get rid of them at the time. Then you'd have a separate pod that is kind of food, and it's a cooler bag, and you can remove each of those things. So if you're going to the changing room to change your baby, you can just take the changing pod and all that. So really, really strong, different but to other the changing bags that are on the market. But when I did a piece of work with them, what we found is they were saying these bags clip to a pram and they look stylish and all the sort of things that any other baby changing brand could claim, whereas they weren't shouting about the thing that was unique to them. So I think in that example, the value proposition is we create a bag that looks like a normal bag, but actually is more like a system, and it allows you to do these things in a more efficient and cleaner and that sort of way. Plus, the feature and the benefits then are, it also clips to your pram. What's a baby changing bag? Why would you make a baby changing bag that doesn't clip to a pram? That'd be ridiculous. It also looks stylish. You don't look like you're carrying around. I think to answer your question, the features and benefits for me tend to sit at the product level, whereas value proposition tends to sit at the brand level and says, what are we different? How are we different? What do we stand for? What are we trying to achieve?
I see. Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. I can think of an example when it comes to weak value propositions. I think agencies are guilty of it as much as anyone else. We all say we are award-winning agencies.
Yes, that's right.
And so everyone's literally saying the same thing.
Yeah. Of course, if everybody's saying that, then it just becomes noise, and everybody goes, well, that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, that makes total sense. The other thing as well, I think you touched upon it a little bit in terms of quality, all the taste, all the ingredients. And I think ultimately all brands, and I'm a founder of an agency, it is a brand. And we all sort of talk about quality. And I think within e-com, that people talk about kind of premiumness or luxury feel to their product. Do you think that's kind of overrated as a value proposition? Because again, going back to the theme of if everyone's saying the same thing, then it kind of is a very weak value proposition, right? Kind of saying we're the premium quality product. Do you think that is a kind of value proposition in itself?
Again, it depends on your sector and your competitors. So I can't think of a good example, but if you had a brand or a product where the general perception of that product as a sector is that it's low quality and therefore cheap, low value, all those things. If then you're coming in as a challenger to say, actually, we've made the same product, we made a premium version so that it works better, it lasts longer, whatever the reason for it being premium, then that can be a value proposition, it can be a differentiator. If all your competitors are also saying we're premium, we have the best quality, then actually it doesn't. There's no kind of exact science to it. I don't think you can always say you can't trade on quality and the premium aspect of your product, because you absolutely can if what you're doing is better than what your competitors are doing. If they're all saying that, then you need to find something else. And that's not to say then, that you can't then use the premium and the quality as a feature, or I tend to call them boosters. So you have your value proposition, then you have your booster, and your booster could be, plus it's really good quality and will last ages. Nobody wants to buy something that is low quality and won't last long, even if it's really cheap. Nobody wants to buy something that won't last long because you're buying something for a purpose. Unless it's a disposable item in some way, you can still use that as premium. It's all about hierarchies. So let's take your agency. So if you had, I'm not asking you to do this live on a podcast, but
let me grab pen and paper.
if you take your agency and you had 10 seconds or 5 seconds to tell somebody about your agency, you wouldn't say something that every other agency can claim that they can do. You would say, actually, the thing that makes us different is X, and that's what I'm going to talk about first. So back to the premium and the quality aspect. If you had 10 seconds to tell somebody about your brand and all your competitors traded on premium quality, then that's not the thing you would say first. You might still say it. If you had a minute to tell them about the brand, or 2 minutes, or you were chatting for a long time, you might get to the point where you say, actually, and it's really good quality, and we use premium materials, and it's recycled, or whatever the definition of premium is in that sense. So it's about the hierarchy. What would you say first? If you only had 5 seconds to tell someone about your brand, what is the thing that you'd want them to remember?
Yeah, makes total sense. I don't know if I want to tell you about the 5 seconds sort of elevator pitch about Candidly right now.
Yeah, go on.
All paid forward, but yeah, something that you have to think about, right? And get right. And what is the real differentiator? And I think, it's going back to the agency world, like we are in a very, very crowded market, and finding differentiators can often be hard. And then you kind of fall back to, quality of service. But anyone can claim that. So you're totally right. When you are auditing brands, or even if you're not auditing brands, let's say, you're browsing for products and you come across a brand, like how would you typically assess a value proposition of a brand? I guess ordinary kind of man down the street, right? You work on value propositions. So if you were working with a brand, or if you just came across a brand and you're looking at their website and how they talk about themselves, like what are the signals you're looking for? How do you assess their value proposition?
It's actually really annoying because your brain goes straight to the things that, and I'm sure you do it, that when you see brands and you see ads running and stuff, you think, oh God, why are they doing that? Or you go, oh, that's really good. I like the way they've done it. You can't just sort of browse like a normal person because you're constantly analyzing. A quick jump out for me when looking at any kind of brand is if they're trading on price very, very quickly in the hierarchy, we are on sale or 50% off or something like that, then that's kind of always a bit of a red flag for me, that maybe there isn't anything else that can convince the customer to purchase other than it's on an offer. I think when you see brands go straight into product level detail, that can sometimes be a red flag. I mean, not always. If you've got a product that, is particularly designed to solve a gap that hasn't been solved in the past, then yes, you can say this product does this and no other product has done that. But if you've got a product where you straight away say, I mean, a good example is like in clothing and fashion, where they will say, our clothes fit well. And you go, well, why would you make clothes that don't fit well? Why would you have to say that? Because you're basically saying, well, our clothes last for a long time. Again, why would you make clothes that weren't, okay, that whole fast fashion thing, but why would you make clothes? So I think it's seeing things that you think, I just see that everywhere, whereas if you take Patagonia as a good example, that they very much front the communication of the brand around their purpose and their mission, and the clothing and the product is then secondary. So the way they try and hook you in is to say, we're doing all this amazing stuff in terms of environmental conservation, reducing landfill, repairing your clothes and all things like this. And if that then resonates with you and you think, yeah, that's me, that's what I'm interested in, then you go, okay, I'm hooked and I'll now go and look at the product, rather than if you are landing on a website and you're taken straight away to a category of product, then you kind of go, well, actually, you're just trading on that product and it might be the same as someone else's. So I think it's, can you say something about the brand and not the product? And if you can, then that is quite a potent value proposition. If you can't and you're trading on the same things that everyone else is trading on, then that makes it a lot harder.
The other brand that comes to mind is Red Bull.
Yes.
None of their marketing is about selling drinks.
Exactly. Yes.
But skydives and jumping off planes and whatnot. It's it's like, what's that got to do with selling drinks? But that's exactly what they're doing.
I think one of the things that I sort of encourage brands to do is because a lot of brands are Me Too brands. You could have a brand that has launched something that might be better. So actually, if you take Lucky Saint, which is a great non-alcoholic beer brand, and they've really sort of challenged the market and done really, really well. And when you taste it, it is, or at least I believe it is, sort of better product than the other non-alcoholic beers that come out, and because it's brewed in a different way and all these things. But essentially, it is a non-alcoholic beer. So in that case, what do you align with that makes your value proposition more potent? And of course, with non-alcoholic beer, you can get up the next day and you don't have a sore head, and you can go and do your events that you were going to do. And I mean, they connect quite a lot with like cycling events and things like that, or like marathons and things. So therefore, the Red Bull example is good. Is there other energy drinks on the market? Yes. Do they all do the same thing in terms of consumer view? Yes. So what makes Red Bull different? Actually, it's the alignment with the extreme sports. It's the same things if you say, what do you think about when you think about Guinness? Well, you think rugby. What do you think when you think about Carlsberg? You think about football. So, these sort of alignment of kind of the tribe of the customer can be used as a value proposition.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. What's the, when you're looking at a brand and you're sort of trying to test, or if a brand wants to test kind of what resonates with their tribe, with their audiences, is there a way of kind of testing value proposition kind of against the audiences that the brand has identified?
Yeah, I guess there's kind of there's the pre-test and the post-test. The crazy thing is a lot of these things are in the public domain. So you say, what are my competitors offering? Well, I can go and find out that. I can go and buy their product and see how their product is made, or how it's different to what I'm proposing to make, and all those things. You can also say, well, what is the customer wants, needs? Well, that's in the public domain. You can go and see what people are buying or not buying. You can also talk to them. So you can run surveys, you can go and talk to people on the street, you can find out if there is a need or a want of your product. Then if you imagine that as as a Venn diagram where you've got your competitors, what your competitor can offer the customer, what your customer wants and needs are, and then what you can offer the customer. There's a bit right in the middle where all three overlap, and that's where you've got the Me Too brand, and that's where you then get into, as I was talking about before, we've got to trade on price or quality or service and all those things. But there's another part that overlaps, that what your customer wants that you can offer that your competitor cannot offer. So that's always the area of focus. So I think that's a good way of kind of analyzing if you're focusing on the right thing and the hierarchy of your comms is sent out in the right way. I think there's another piece around looking at various things like appeal. So, is your product appealing? Because if it's not, then obviously you're not gonna go where is it appealing to a large audience? How well is it received? Is it received well? Do people understand it? Do people believe it? Do people sort of get what it's about? And then there's a kind of a whole cost element, and that's not just the monetary cost of the product or the service. There's the mental cost, the mental load I have to go to get that product or service. And so the example I'll always give is you might have a product that is completely rooted in customer wants and needs, so it's very appealing. It has high exclusivity. Not many other people can offer this, or no one can offer this. It's got good reception, so it's easy to understand. It's easy to believe what it can do. It might even have a low financial cost. So you go, okay, I'm willing to do that. But if there's only one store I can buy it in and it's 300 miles away from me, I'm not going to buy it. That's then the mental cost. How many hurdles do I have to jump over to purchase that? So I think it's analyzing all those things against your competitors and seeing what how different yours is to theirs. So I think that's the kind of the pre-testing. The post-testing then is we get things wrong. So we might say, yeah, the customer's going to want this because it's X, Y, Z. They might have bought that product for a completely different reason. And so you might be thinking it's this that's appealing to them. Actually, it might be something else. So that's then when the post-purchase survey, why did you buy this product? What almost made you not buy this today? Those sorts of questions post-purchase, where you can find out if what you think is the reason they would buy it is the reason they buy it. And you may actually adjust your value proposition because they're interested in something that you thought wasn't actually as important, but actually is more important to them.
That's very interesting in terms of that Venn diagram and finding kind of a niche for yourself. Just do one thing or do several things if you want to do several things, but do them better than anyone else and meet that customer demand. And
it's interesting actually when we talk about features and benefits, the way I tend to then think about it is in that Venn diagram where you've got the bit of overlap, what you can offer your customer that your competitor can't. That should be the thing that you talk about first. That is then value proposition. The bit that's where all three overlap, what you are offering the customer is what your competitor can also offer the customer. That's then your boosters or your features and benefits, because that's when you go, well, I've hooked them on the value proposition. I've hooked them on the bit that's different. And then they want to know, does the coffee taste good? Yeah, it tastes good. And our customers are telling, we've got lots of social proof on the website that's telling people that actually it tastes good. How quickly can it be delivered? Actually, they've got good service levels, good reviews in terms of quality. So that's the bit then. It's not that you don't talk about that. It's that you talk about that secondary.
What I'm getting from this conversation is your value prop is almost your brand personality. Your product features and benefits basically can be copied. My coffee tastes good, like so does everyone else's.
That's right, yeah.
But if another competitor tries to copy the brand's personality, then they start to look like a copycat. So if another energy drink comes about and they're like, okay, well, we'll do some skydives too, then they're just like, oh yeah, you're just copying the other brand, right? You're copying Red Bull. And so that becomes kind of your moat. That's kind of what it sounds like, right? Because if you're just competing on product, features, benefits, price, then you're going to get beaten by someone else who could probably do it better. So that's starting from money of the problem, do it at a larger scale, beat you on price, go to the same factory in China, etc. It sounds like the value prop is really how you compete and prevent from your competitors to beat you at your own game, so to speak, right?
Yes, that's it. And there's another interesting way you can look at it. Take what you are doing and then flip it and create the complete opposite of it. So going back to a coffee example, if you're saying it's amazing quality, it tastes amazing, it's fair trade, it's ethical, it's environmental, all of these things. Well, if you flip that on its head and you say it tastes shit, it's not fair trade, we really exploit the people that make it, it's got a huge environmental impact, we wrap it in completely unnecessary plastic, why would you do that? So nobody would do that, even if you are making a low quality product with all those things and not caring about fair trade and everything. You're not going to say that because that's not what you're going to trade on. So if what you're doing when you create the opposite of it looks ridiculous as a brand proposition, then everybody's going to do the same thing as you. Because if everybody's going to say it tastes good, well, of course it does. Why would you make a coffee that doesn't taste good? the thing I always see in brands is we put the customer at the heart of everything we do. We make things that a customer wants. Well, of course you do. Why wouldn't you? Why would you make something your customer doesn't want? You shouldn't trade on that as a proposition, because that's just what you should do. So that's another good way of kind of looking at if you're saying the right thing. Because if the opposite of it is a ridiculous thing to say, then don't say it, because that's what everyone would say.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Something springs to mind actually. Yeti, the kind of they do all sorts of things now, but I think they started as a sort of a food and drinks cooler that you would take out, like outdoor cooler boxes and stuff. And I remember a video, and it was very much exactly how you said it. I will do the opposite, because I think every company was trying to find, especially with these outdoor coolers, they were going for really lightweight boxes effectively. And Yeti was like, okay, well, we'll do the exact opposite. We'll make it absolutely ridiculously heavy. And I guess the perception of the users then became, well, it must be really good quality.
Yeah.
It's not going to crack.
Yes.
At the the first knock, they did completely opposite where the market was going, because it was all about shed the weight, make it light, easy to carry, etc., etc. They just went really hard cases, really, really heavy stuff. And I guess going back to that Venn diagram that you mentioned, it did something that competitors weren't doing at all. And when in the opposite direction, it kind of made sense.
Yes.
It can feel a bit of a gamble, I guess. And I think this is where you probably need to kind of validate the idea and do some market tests and see if there's a product market fit or not. But if you hit that sweet spot, your numbers are going to grow very, very rapidly, because you are absolutely genuinely offering something that's completely different, right?
That's right. Yes. And what's interesting about that example is obviously the background behind it, but I guess that some kind of market research was done, and maybe they identified a perception issue. They said, well, yeah, okay, I get lightweight, but actually it's not lasting very long. And I want something to last. I want to buy this and have it for 20 years and it do the job for 20 years sort of thing. So it's interesting on going, if everybody's trading on weight and ease of transport, does that actually create a good product? Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah. I'll link that video in the show notes for the listeners. I think it's well worth a watch. In fact, I think they did a bit of a parody video, just mocking themselves really, in terms of how they came about with the idea, just like sort of played the whole thing out. I think it's a really, really good watch. Just moving on, I guess final question of value proposition, in terms of whether it's something that as the brand scales, do you feel like it's actually static, or as the brand scale, you would work on your value prop and you will adjust it, or you'll do something with it, or like you've proven it that it works at a smaller scale and therefore actually double down on it because you've already got a product market fit?
Again, I think there's a few factors that can affect that. I guess, you could launch a product and brand that offers something that has never been offered before or revolutionizes something. And then, of course, all competitors copy it and do the same thing. So in which case, your value proposition does then need to evolve over time. And it might be that you still take the same kind of, ethos of what you did there and might apply that to something else. Apple's a good example because they were known for computers in the 80s, 90s. Actually, their value proposition really isn't on computers. Their value proposition is actually will make something better and work better for you. And that's where they've been able to jump into phones and watches and TV boxes and all these different things. And of course, when they launched the iPhone, changed the game in terms of what phones were at the time, or smartphones were at the time. And Samsung came along, did a very good job of producing a phone. Google came along, did a very good job of producing a phone. So it has to evolve over time because actually the market will change. However, if you're able to stick in your niche, then great. I don't think it does need to change. And if there's still market share for you to go after, either in the UK or overseas, then great. So I think it's kind of depends on how the market and your competitors are changing as well.
Patagonia is probably another example where I don't think they've changed their value prop, right? It's basically for decades, this kind of remained the same.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
So it really depends on, I guess, a few factors, as you mentioned. Okay, moving the conversation on to Uncle Matt's. And I feel like Uncle Matt's hats, it has got a very, very strong value prop. So I definitely want to kind of learn more about the idea and how you came about with the idea. To tell the listeners all about Uncle Matt's hats and sort of touch upon the value prop.
Sure. Yeah. So we're a headwear brand. So baseball caps, beanie caps, beanies that are coming out shortly. If you think about a value proposition, we make a hat. Okay, great. It's a hat. Does it fit on your head? Yeah. Does it keep the sun off your face with the peak? Yeah. So does it do the things that a hat should do? Yeah. Why would we make a hat that doesn't do those things? Is it good quality? Yes, because actually we didn't want to make a cheap and and poor quality hats. Ours are made of, but 95% is recycled materials. It's made of a premium kind of a recycled polyester. It lasts a long time. It doesn't fade and all these things. So you say, okay, is that enough to launch a brand on? Well, okay, they're good hats. Do they last a long time? Yeah. Do people like the design? Yeah, some will, some won't. Does that give us enough kind of power to actually sell a load of hats? Probably not. So what we're aligned with is mental health, particularly men's mental health, but we're not discriminating against anybody's positive mental health or helping people. And so what we do is we then tie some storytelling into the product. So I'll tell you in a minute about why it's called Uncle Matt's, but the logo, which you can see on my hat here and on one of the hats here, is it's a U for Uncle Matt, but it's also representing, if you were to take any of our mental state and plot it over time and put it on a graph, we would all see that we have this up and down thing, because we all have times where we're feeling good and we'll have times where we're feeling pretty bad or not as good. And some people's peaks and troughs might be more severe than others, and some people's might have this sort of a softer, wavy line. But that's what that's to represent. So actually there's meaning and there's kind of purpose in what that is. Hopefully, it's a cool logo and some people will like it. That's great, but actually there's a meaning behind it. What we do then is we take it one step further, and when you talk to people about their mental health and their experiences of, one of the trends that I found was people would say, well, when I'm feeling depressed or anxious or whatever it may be, I tend to look at everyone else and go, God, they seem all right. They've got everything sorted. What's wrong with me? Why do I feel like this? Even though there's no reason, you might have an amazing life, a brilliant family, you might be financially sound, but actually, why am I still feeling like this when everyone else is fine? Well, actually, when you look at the stats, I think the stat is that in the next 12 months, 1 in 4 adults will experience some sort of mental crisis. So all those people you're looking at that you think are fine and they've got everything sorted and there's a problem with you, they're probably looking at you and going, God, he looks all right, or she looks all right, and things like that. So what we did there was we took that sort of idea and said, well, if on the outside we all look fine, and so we purposely created a very simple and very plain cap. So we have the logo here, and we have it's hard to show on the black one there, but we have a simple kind of patch on the back here. From the outside, we all look fine. So what we did then is we put the stuff on the inside. So we spent more time designing the insides than the outside of the hat, which people won't see. But in here, and it's hard to see on this, but we've got what we call a brain freeze graphic, which basically has burnt out brains, it has depleted batteries, it has lots of different sort of iconography that represents that sort of mental state. Then we've got lines over the top here that says, I'm fine, I'm all right, I'm okay, Ty. Because again, that's something that we always say, particularly in this country. We're very much, yeah, I'm fine, I'm all good. You'd stiff up a lip and get on with it. Well, actually, a lot of times we're not. So we took the storytelling into the element. So yes, it's a hat. Yes, it's a good hat. Yes, it's premium. Yes, it's good quality. But actually, there's a story in terms of the logo and what it's actually representing. The idea behind this then is that creates conversation starters. If I don't want to tell you about this and I'm just wearing a hat and you see me wearing this hat and you go, either you think it's a good hat or you think it's just a hat and I don't even notice it, that's fine. But if we're having a conversation and I want to talk to you about it, I can say, well, actually, do you know what this hat represents? It represents this thing. So there's a whole piece around the storytelling within the product itself. What we then did from a acquisition and retention point of view, and people are probably wondering why I'm sitting next to an ice cream tub here, but
yeah, I was going to ask, yeah.
What we did from a storytelling point of view is we kept talking about this brain freeze moment where the stuff inside our heads gets too much and our brain goes, no, can't do it anymore. Something's got to change, and I've either got to change my lifestyle or I've got to ask for help, whatever it may be. So we kept calling that this brain freeze moment. And so we then said, well, to really emphasize the brain freeze moment and to differentiate us from other hat brands, let's go with a whole experience in terms of delivery and unboxing. So we send our hats out in these oversized ice cream tubs, and we create a fake sub-brand which is called Uncle Matt's Brain Freeze Ice Cream, because what else gives you brain freeze? Ice cream. So and the hats actually sit in this. Functionally, it's a hat box. So if you're a bit of a sneakerhead where you keep your sneakers in boxes and keep them all pristine, you can do that with this. Equally, you can keep whatever. I have people saying that they keep their dog treats in it or kids' toys or whatever it is. But it creates an unboxing experience that you remember. You also tell people about. So we've seen people completely unprompted that have bought this and paid money for this actually doing full-on unboxing videos like in our world, in ecom and paid media. We're paying people to do unboxings for us because we want to showcase that. Actually, we're getting it for free. So it creates that whole sort of asset creation and organic reach. And then we can then ask those people, can we use your content? And we push that back into paid ads and things like that. So it creates this kind of cyclical aspect of how the value proposition allows us from acquisition through to experience through to retention. The other aspect is retention in terms of gifting. So I then go, I bought one of these, I think it's cool. I know Raman's going through a tough time at the moment. I'm going to buy him a hat. So, just to let him know I'm thinking about him, and hopefully this will make him smile just for a bit. So there's the gifting piece. And then we've got ideas in terms of, we also have beanie hats. So there's a retention piece of coming and buying this. It's got the same sort of pattern on the inside. So very plain and simple on the outside. So there's a whole retention piece. And then we've got a ridiculous amount of ideas of different hats that we're going to put in different types of packaging and things like that for the future, where hopefully they become a bit collectible. So you say, well, I've got the tub, I also want the coffee tin or whatever else we've got planned. So yeah, from a value proposition point of view, it was really nice to be able to build something from the ground up and go, actually, what is going to be different? Rather than just go, I'm going to make a good hat. Okay, well, that's a given. Why would I make a rubbish hat? But what can we actually craft on top of that, where actually the value proposition is nothing to do with a hat? The byproduct is the hat. The value proposition is you want to be an ambassador of good mental health. You've experienced some issues yourself, so it's almost a badge of honor kind of thing. I can help you get through this because I've experienced it. That sort of thing, rather than it just being a hat. Which, why would you buy a hat from us if it was just a hat? I've got no idea.
From a value prop point of view, it's not just the story, which no one else can copy. It's your story, right? It's kind of the mental health link, but then the entire experience. And would you agree that the experience, the unboxing experience is kind of part of your value prop? Would you say that that's the case?
Absolutely.
Right. Okay.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I think people probably are just as much excited to receive this as to receive the hat itself. And obviously we want these to be protected when we post these out. We put this in an outer box, and on the outer box, we've got things like keep chill on the side. So, instead of keep chilled, ice cream, keep chill, try and relax and those sorts of things. And because it says ice cream on the box and because it says keep chill, we have these amazing kind of experiences. One of the best ones was we had somebody in a co-working space in London. And they contacted us and said, I've not received the order, but it's showing as delivered. And so we went through, we tracked it and said, yeah, it's delivered. I can see a picture of it at your front desk. We can even see the person that was on the reception that had signed for it. And we know that person's there. Anyway, after about a day or so of trying to figure out what had happened, the customer messaged us a photo where they have the co-working spaces. They have free drinks and stuff like that in a fridge. All the free drinks have been shoved to the side and our parcel have been wedged into this fridge because they've gone, well, it's ice cream. I need to keep this cool. So it creates these experiences and creates these things that then people share, gives us content to share. So packaging is just as much as the value proposition, yes. And it creates the whole experience, which is just as much as the value proposition.
But I think it's very clever in terms of getting people to, creating that. The unboxing experience is something that you would actually, share socially on digital channels. And that obviously then translates to content for the brand, if I can use the word virality, but that's kind of baked into the system. Very clever. Is there some sort of charity angle as well to this?
So we're very much about kind of prevention and sort of normalizing mental health issues and struggles, so that as and when it does occur, if it does occur to a person, it doesn't feel so sideswiping and like, oh my God, what the hell's wrong with me? They go, oh, this is that thing that people have been talking about. So we focus very much at the kind of the prevention end of the scale. But of course, there is the point where people do need help, where they are struggling with whatever issue they've got going on. So we partner with a charity called Chasing the Stigma, and they've got something called the Hub of Hope, which is an app that we can access online, but you download on your phone. And we just encourage people to download it, keep it on your phone, because you never know when you or a friend or a loved one would need it. But it's a directory of over like 15,000 mental health services in the UK that you can gain access to. We've got this massive delay on mental health support on the NHS at the moment, just because it's such a massive issue. And so there are things you can go and do to help yourself in the meantime, and go and actually seek help. And if I'm struggling with anxiety or struggling with depression, or I'm struggling with self-harm or whatever it may be, or relationship issues or financial struggles, whatever it is, you can filter out the sort of help that you want, and you can go and seek it. So we give 10% of our profits back to Chasing the Stigma, and we do a lot of work kind of signposting towards that.
Thanks, Steve. Really interesting story. And I'll make sure that I add the links to the show notes for chasing the stigma and hub of hope. And thanks for sharing. I guess moving on to the next question. This is really for founders out there that are currently considering value prop and how to position their brands. Are there any specific traps to watch out for when considering value prop?
I was talking earlier about encouraging people to see what your competitors are doing and then obviously focus in other areas. But I think one of the traps you can fall into is spending too much time looking at what your competitors are doing and really analyzing that. What tends to happen then is that brands tend to fuel each other's comms. So again, let's take the coffee example. So I've got Steve's coffee over here and I'm going, right, Raman's coffee over there, he's saying that it tastes really good. I haven't said that, so I need to say it tastes really good. Okay. Oh, and he's also saying that it's fair trade and ethical, so I need to say that. Okay, so that's great. I'll put that front and center. And then what you do with Raman's coffee is you then get, Steve's coffee is really doubling down on this messaging around fair trade and around taste. I really need to go, I need to up my game and increase our comms on that. And so you do a piece of work around that. I then go, Raman's coffee is really championing taste and they've got all this social proof about taste. So I need to really do that. And you end up fueling each other's comms where actually maybe neither of those things are important. I'm not saying taste for coffee isn't important, but maybe neither of those things are important. Or equally, there might be something that I can offer on my coffee company that you can't offer in your coffee company. So instead of us actually creating each other's marketing strategies, let's think about actually what are they doing? Okay, I need to say that. I need to say that it tastes good. I need to say that it's fair trade. But also, I can't think of a good example, but I do something with my coffee that you can't do. And so I'm gonna talk about that more. So I think there's always a bit of a trap where you get stuck in a loop with your competitors that you're all saying the same thing. And then of course, nothing stands out. If nothing stands out, all you've got to trade on is service and price and quality. So if yours is better quality, maybe. If yours is cheaper, maybe. If I can get mine easier or have a better experience, then I'll go to that brand versus that brand. So yeah, I think that's always a trap that people fall into.
Dave, thank you so much for your time. What a fascinating chat this has been. I learned a great deal about value prop. And as I often end these podcasts by saying, thank you so much for paying forward. Last question before I let you go, where can people find you?
Very simply, we're Uncle Matt's Hats. So on any of the social channels, we're at Uncle Matt's Hats, all one word. Our web address is unclemattshats.com. And you'll find me on LinkedIn, Steve Willicott on LinkedIn.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.